So welcome if you've just joined us. You're in the right place if you're here for the webinar on Why the Why. We're just waiting for a few more people to join us and then we'll make a start.
Well, it's such an exciting topic, isn't it, Jenny? We've really been looking forward to joining and together and talking about this topic and sharing our experiences and thoughts on why the why with all of you.
Very, very much so. While we're waiting for people to arrive, how about people introduce themselves in the chat? We'd love to hear from you, where you are at the moment, whereabouts in the world are you? Just find the chat button and let us know where you're calling in from. It doesn't sound quite right. It's not a radio show, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, where are you calling in from? Not quite there. Yeah, I'm in not so sunny Ascot near London, and it's not very
it's miserable.
Much better in here with all of you, I have to say.
Absolutely. And Dorcas, hello, calling from London. Thank you. I expect the weather's pretty similar to here in London. And Alina
from London. Hello, Alina.
Nice to have you here, also in London. So we're all sharing the same weather at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, we're so British talking about the weather, aren't we?
We are. It's important to us to get talking about the weather.
Lovely. Right, should we make a start then, Ali?
Yes.
Should we start with some introductions?
Yeah, well, I'm Alison Grieve. I'm one of the founding directors of Management Dynamics. I'm a team coach, facilitator, and I've been leading and working with teams and researching teams actually as well for decades now. And for me, the why is the starting point. It's something I'm passionate about, as you can tell, and I love to see the impact that it can have. So looking forward to talking about it today. Jenny?
Lovely, thank you, Ali. I'm the other founding partner of Management Dynamics, also a team coach, really interested in teams. I love the team process. I'm fascinated by it, actually. Always have been fascinated by group dynamics in particular. And, and what it is that unlocks that potential in a team that takes them from good to high performing. That's the bit I'm really interested in learning more about. And I'm also interested in the research-based approach and the data-driven approach to team development. So, you'll see a lot in the tools that we've created that is all about helping teams to solidify what's actually going on in the team and where to focus their attention to unlock that high performance. Peter, what about you?
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm a customer experience consultant at Management Dynamics. Unsurprisingly, also super passionate about teams and love the work that we do with them. And I support the teams that we work with all over the world. But I'm here really to moderate today's session. So please use the chat function to post any questions you've got. There's also the Q&A function as well, so you can submit them through there. We'll try and pick them up as we go along, but there'll also be some time at the end where we'll go through and answer some of your questions. So feel free to test Jenni and Alison's knowledge. We're really lucky to have you all join us on such an interesting topic. So let's get started.
Lovely.
So
thank you very much, Peter.
Quick intro to what Management Dynamics is. We really cater for 4 key areas of talent in the broadest sense. So leadership development, designing, creating bespoke programs for leaders at all levels, from C-suite all the way down to first level leaders and even individual contributors. We work with talent management, helping think about what capabilities does your organization need, how do you recruit the best talent for now and into the future, and really providing consultancy and support, and also certifying in all the Korn Ferry assessments. And we also do other kind of things within the talent field. So teams is one of our main passions. We see it as a connecting point for the whole organization. And we've got our own framework. We work with teams to support them as team coaches to get to high performance. We train leaders in how to be great team coaches and help their own teams get to high performance and how to lead their teams. And we also train internal people into how to be great team coaches as well. So HR professionals or coaches. And coaching, final part of it, we do coaching across all the aspects of our business, individual, team, and large group coaching. So we work with a great bunch of clients. Some of you are on here now. We love working with our clients, very diverse and interesting bunch. And we have a global presence to support those clients. So we can support them in multiple language. And we have a team of very diverse people across the world that we connect. So we'll talk more about our experience with teams with our own team as much as working with all the other teams too. So what are we going to talk about, Jenny?
Well, here's our agenda. So we're going to start by thinking about why should we focus on team reason? So why reason at all, actually? You know, how does it fit in with that high performance piece I talked about earlier that I'm so passionate about? So we're going to help to orientate you around the dynamics that we found through research that will make them the biggest difference to your team. So if you want to get to high performance, these are the things that you need to focus on. And of course, reason is one of them. Purpose is one of them, exactly. So we'll spend a bit of time next looking at that. We're then going to look at the different layers of reason. So reason is multifaceted. There's going to be 4 layers that we're going to talk you through in turn, and what you can do to help light those up for people in your organization and in your team. We're then also going to think about, so how do you go about practically creating a team purpose? What are some of the ideas that we've got for you in terms of how you go about creating that team reason or that team purpose? And we'll finish off with next steps and kind of, you know, we've got some freebies for you that we'll share with you after the webinar, and that will help you to move towards that team purpose for your team. Ali, over to you.
Why the why? You know, how come why is so important? And we believe that, and from our research and experience, we believe that teams are actually the linchpin within organizations. They're an area that you can use to catalyze and deliver the full results of the organization, as well as engage the individuals. So it's a key linchpin that's often not optimized within many organizations. And key to catalyzing that is actually sorting out the why. It's the North Star. It's the piece that people can see, the direction. It helps provide focus and clarity of what we're trying to do, but it also galvanizes and creates a sense of cohesion and community. We see it in crises all the time. You know, people come together, they can see what's really important, and they all jump in and support each other. And that's often the examples people give of experiences of being in high performing teams. It's in a crisis when times are really tough, and we're kind of forced into it. However, the power of why is there all the time. It's just we don't use it. It sits there waiting like, you know, a diamond in the dust, ready to be brushed off. Of if we could only unlock and polish this, people would be able to see it, and we get that power that comes when times of crisis to get people to collaborate and work together. And through our research, we've identified that reason is that North Star for teams. So this could be your board, it could be teams at any level of the organization, but it's understanding what is it that we're trying to achieve here. It's the starting point for all teams. It's the starting point for both the individual of why am I here in this team? What do I want to get out of my career and this moment in time while I'm here in this team? And the organization's expectations of why they've put that group of people together to deliver something. What are they expecting to get out of the team? So the reason is the starting point. It is the why are we all here? But it's not just a list of tasks that the team delivers. We would suggest that's the what. That's all about the results of the team. And clearly you need to have results or the team's not going to exist for very long. But unless it's connected and aligned to the why, it's not going to deliver the energy and the purpose that really could be there. And it's probably not going to quite meet all the needs of the individuals in that team as well. So getting real clarity and understanding and connecting everybody in the team to that reason is the key starting point. Then you can work on the results and work out what is it we're all doing, who does what, where's there opportunities for collaboration, how are we making sure this is aligned through the organization, and to us as individuals, and how will we know when we've been successful? How can we see that we're on track? So it needs to be measurable. Underpinning those are 3 aspects to make it happen. So you've got routines, first of all. What's the rhythm, the pace that the team's working at? How do they make decisions, and how do they work together and keep each other informed? And building on that, you need to have good quality relationships where people feel that they are safe psychologically. They can share their views and opinions and voice safely what's going on without it falling into destructive conflict, but actually allowing good quality constructive conflict to happen. And people feeling really engaged and empowered, enabling them to deliver all the things that they want to do and feel that they're growing as well, and working together. We know the world is very complex. Problems and things that we're facing are becoming even more complex, and too complex for one person to do on their own. So collaboration is key, not just for our success and for having fun and a sense of community. It actually enables us to build even more better quality solutions. And finally, resilience. How do you sustain high performance over time? The resilience of the team is that continuous review of all the other dynamics. And what we found with our research and working with teams is it's the why, it's the reason that enables teams when it's really hard, they're tired, exhausted, to keep going, to come into work in COVID day after day, when there's problems going on with, you know, the supply of your materials, customers are shouting, but they know why they're there. They're putting food on the plates of people, or they're supporting teams who are delivering healthcare. So that's when people's why of am I doing this comes into place. So having it there ready for teams to hold on when they're tired, but also having a community, those relationships where we notice each other's energy levels and we can support individuals' own resilience as a team is important, as well as learning and being able to adapt to change. So external changes, but also internal changes within the team too. So noticing what's moving, that's why it's called dynamics of high performing teams. They're always shifting and adapting, and the team needs to flex and notice those changes too to sustain high performance. We use the analogy of the diamond purposefully because we believe that just like diamonds, teams are rare, and you have to work really hard to find them. You dig under the dust to pick them out. You then have to hone and polish and cut to make them shine as brightly as they can and to create the full value that they have as their potential. You then can see that they're multifaceted and they look at different lights from different ways of looking at them. People want them, they're valuable, and they keep their value too. And the final one that I really like is that they're strong. They cut through everything, and high performing teams do that. Now we've created a diagnostic tool that enables you to look at your teams and say, how are they doing? And we've got a demo one that will pop in the chat just now, if any of you want to have a look at it and have a go.
Lovely. And if you've got any questions as we go, please do put it in the chat or use the Q&A function. Peter's keeping an eye on it for us, but he'll just jump in at any moment, to at the appropriate moment, right, Peter, to bring in your questions. So please feel free. Let's have a look at the different layers of reason. So we know that reason is multifaceted. There's quite a few different layers to it. In fact, we think there are 4 layers to reason, and they're all connected, or they need to be connected in order to make the most of unlocking this potential in a team. So the first layer, if we start in the middle of the circle there, is the individual reason. So the individual team members. This is our individual motivation. So why we come to work every day, you know, what motivates us to do a good job and put in effort to achieving what we need to achieve. Then with the next layer, we've got the team reason. So this is the reason why the team exists in the organization. And why are those team members not just a part of a different team? You know, why are they not dispersed elsewhere in the organization? What is it that's brought them together that is a really strong, compelling reason for them to exist as a team? And then we've got the organisational reason. So it's often described as an organisational mission or vision. And then finally, we've got society and the organisation's context in society. And all of these different layers of reason are connected, and they need to line up for an individual team member to be truly motivated to their full potential. And if, for example, if we're able to fulfil our values at work every day, so motivations are being fired off regularly, and we're really clear about how our values or our motivations are fulfilled by the team that we're a part of, and then the organisation's values line up with ours, and then the organisation impacts society positively in a way that resonates with our values, then we can be really, really motivated at work. And then this is when the magic starts to happen. This is when we start to love what we do. This is when we start to really go the extra mile. This is when we start to support our team members really proactively rather than just waiting for them to come to us for help. And this is when we start to come up with great ideas for solving problems. This is when we start to get really creative and so on. So, the possibilities and the benefits, I think, are absolutely endless here when you start to really capture and dig into and fire off individual motivations through these different layers. Shall we start by looking at the individual reason, and Ali?
Because why do we care about this? Well, we all want to feel like that after a day of work, don't we? Yes, joyful, feeling like we really did it, achieved something that we're proud of and is great. I mean, who wouldn't want to feel like that at work every day? And that's why we're interested in the why from an individual perspective. How often, though, do we actually sit down and think, what is it that makes me feel like that at work? What is it that I really want that would make me feel like that? How can I do that? And that's where we work with teams and individuals to start to help the individuals, first of all, because most of us don't spend time thinking about it. Thinking about, what is it that motivates me at work? What are my values? What am I trying to achieve in my bigger life? And work is part of that. And longer term, what are the things that are really key? Jenni's mentioned making a difference happens to be one of hers. And so that is really critical here. Understanding your own values, but what about your motivations as well? Now, it's good if we can unlock that for the individual and they notice and they know that for themselves. But the real power comes when that's shared. And we can start to make connections with each other to understand that we share some values that are common and also some different ones, which is not to say that they're right or wrong, they're just different. And how can we support each other in achieving those together? And this is not a competition. This is about how do we do it together so that I get mine and I feel like that, and so do the rest of the team. A high-performing team really enjoys the energy that comes of everybody doing that together. We see it on the sports field. The guy hits the ball in the goal, and what do the team do? They all run around and hug that person and jump around them. They're all doing that. We want that for us every day at work too.
Lovely. Now, let's think a bit more about this values piece. Yeah, I'm showing you a picture of an iceberg. You might have come across this analogy before, that people are like icebergs, right? What percentage of an iceberg is underwater? Just type in the chat your thoughts there, right? So what percentage do you think of an iceberg is underwater? Is it 10%? Is it 20%? Thank you, Bob. 80%. We got any takers for going higher or lower than Bob's 80% guess there?
Bob's obviously seen Titanic.
Have we all seen Titanic? With our Titanic generation, aren't we? So
Yeah.
What other guesses have you got there in terms of how does that feel, man? Thank you, Bob. Yeah. Alina, 90%. The answer is actually 89%. So I'm going to give it to you, Alina. Yeah, you're not far off, Bob, either, but a big proportion of an iceberg's underwater, right? So it's not seen by the world, right? So if people are like icebergs, 90% of us is underwater. So people don't see a lot of who we are, right? So if you think about what's above the surface and what people do see of us, that's our behaviours. So how we do things on a day-to-day basis. And that behavior might change in different contexts. So I know I don't behave exactly the same with one person as I do with the other, or in the same context as I do it in another. It is situation dependent. And what is underneath the surface of the water, what people don't see of us is, I mean, there's a huge, big, long list of stuff. But if we really simplify it down, it's things like our motivations. Yeah, it's things like our values, yeah, and our beliefs as well. And these all drive our behavior. This is why we do things. Okay, so for example, Ali mentioned I've got a value for making a difference. I do bang on about it quite a bit. It's very important to me. It's my most important value, actually. It's my number one value at work. And we do have a hierarchy of values. So we'll have a number one, number two, three, four, five, etc. And these things are driving, my behavior. So every day I seek out opportunities to make a difference to people, to teams, to organizations that I work with. And I'm at my most motivated when I know that I'm making a difference. And if somebody tells me I'm making a difference to them, it's even better. I don't need people to tell me, but I just know it inside. There's lots of ways that I judge that. But if they do tell me, then wonderful, absolutely light up, don't I, Ali?
It does.
So the opposite can also be true, of course. So when our values are not fulfilled, that's when we get our most demotivated. So for example, if I spend too long doing company admin or all the stuff that you have to do when you're a business owner, like, the tax return or whatever it might be, if I spend too long doing it, I can get demotivated. If I'm spending weeks on end and I'm not seeing any way, shape or form that I'm making a difference to other people, then that's when I start to really notice it. And that's when I go, hang on a minute, I need to do something different here. The other thing to notice about values is that these are the things that we're prepared to stand up and fight for. Yeah, so they can be the source of conflict in a team if people don't respect other people's values, or sometimes we do it by accident. Yeah, it's not intentional that we step on somebody's values, and it might just be their perception actually that we are stepping on their values. But it's, if you think about any time then you've got into conflict with someone, usually there's something that's connected to your values there, your top values, the ones that you're prepared to stand up and go, oi, no, that's not fair, for example, if fairness is really important to you at work, or we're not delivering what we're supposed to be delivering, if delivery of results is important to you at work. So these things are really important to pay attention to. It's amazing what a difference it can make in a team when people share their values with each other and understand each other's values and notice the connections, the similarities, the differences as well. Yeah, and be aware of them and start to bring them into how they interact with each other. And the really lovely thing about values is that it's really easy to talk about them. It's very psychologically safe to talk about values. It's not such a deep, dark part of us that it's difficult to bring it up. It's just there because it drives our behavior every day. And so it feels like a really safe exercise, even when there's not a huge amount of psychological safety in a team, because no one can argue with your values. They just are, and they're perfect for you, right? The other thing to talk about in terms of values is how rarely money appears in people's values. And if it is present in some way, what's usually is present is what money means to people rather than money itself. So it could be things like abundance or security or contribution or words like that kind of talk about the value that money can bring to somebody as opposed to just the cold hard cash, right? And that's because money can be a big demotivator if it's not present. So if we are not paid enough, we're not getting enough money to sustain our lifestyle, we can be very demotivated by it. But it's not a motivator in and of itself. So it's not the thing that will drive higher performance if you're paid more, for example. So yeah, interesting things to think about in terms of values and how they can show up in teams. And so I think it's really crucial that teams are thinking about how can we make sure that we first of all understand each other's values, that we're able to respect them and to work with them even if they're different from ours, and how can we ensure that people's values are fulfilled as much as possible. And that's one of the keys that will really unlock high performance in a team. Massive. So here we're just talking about it at an individual level still, remember. Yeah. Shall we talk about the team, Ali?
Yeah, so when we're talking about the team, this is when we start to get into why much more, because if you can unlock those individual values and people start to understand why people could get what they need from the team, then that's already part of the story. It's not the whole thing. Team reason is all about understanding and getting really clear on why the team exists as a whole. Why is it a team and not just a bunch of people who are pulled together who happen to work for the same boss? And Jenny and I work often with those kind of teams who go, yeah, well, there's nothing we do together. You know, we just work for Joe. But when we start working with a team, we often also notice how confused teams are about what they do with why they're doing it. And the team reason and purpose is not always clear to people. What is clear is what they do on a day-to-day basis, but that's not the bigger picture. So it's important for a team to think about, why do we exist? What's the organization's expectations of us? What's their aspirations of the synergy of us as a group of people and why they've put us together? They haven't just put us together because we're a bunch of individuals. There's something more that could be there. And what could that be? You know, it's more than just delivering widgets or a certain volume of sales. It's understanding what the value you're creating for the organization, for your customers, and even for the community, as well as thinking about the value you're creating for each other in the team. So this team why is what holds the team together when things get tough. You know, and I've got a couple of examples of some lovely team reasons that we've seen recently. So the first one is delivering tomorrow today. This is a transformation team's reason. And so obviously it's all about delivery. But they're transforming things. So they're doing the transformation and planning it and putting it all in place today, because actually the results will be tomorrow. It's a lovely, it's for them, it's an inspiring thing. A second one we've got is a logistics team. And they spent a lot of time talking about the ... deliver ... together. This is, yeah, again, results is in there, but a wide range of things. They don't want to list them all out, because guess what? You might forget something and things change and new things come in. But the other critical piece is the word together. It's a community and they're doing it all together. So a lot of things, but it's about them together. A third one, catalyzing transformation and growth. So this is Management Dynamics team reason. And it's one of the things, it's about that spark. You know, we believe fundamentally it's about giving a spark out there for change, for making a difference, which links into Jenny's values beautifully, and growth, one of which is mine, by the way. And so you can see that whatever we're doing, whether it's about growing an organization or it's growing individuals or leaders, that's there. And we use it as a decision-making point and a decision-making tool. So we look at work as it comes in and we say, does this fit with our purpose? Will it enable us to do the stuff that's really important to us? So it helps you focus on the results. And that's really one of the key things and the benefits of this, as well as being inspiring. The other thing that you might notice from those three examples is that they're all brief. They're only a few words. They're not paragraphs or pages of PowerPoint. They're also very memorable. They're easy for people to keep in their minds, and they're also inspirational. They connect to the individuals in the team. This is not a marketing exercise. This is for the team. This is for the team to have their North Star and know why are we doing that, and to feel really passionate about it. They don't need to share this outside. That's one of the things that we're very clear about. We'll talk to you later about how to create this.
And we don't have this on our marketing materials, do we? Even though I love it as much that I'd love to put it on our marketing material, but it's not for anybody else, is it? It's just for us.
Yeah.
It's our little check that we are working on the right things when we take on client work, and you know, it's inspiring us every day. Lovely, thank you, Ali. Let's talk about the organisation reason. So the reason why the organisation exists. And again, this is more important than just about making money, which is important for a lot of organisations, right? They've got shareholders, you know, they've profit making organisations, but that is not enough. So we've already talked about how money is not a motivator for people. So the organizational reason needs to reflect that. So when you see, you know, organization missions like creating shareholder value, that's just another way of saying we're here to make money. It's not good enough, honestly, to really connect your people and ultimately your customers to why you're here. So I've got a few examples of some lovely ones that we found around the world. I'd like to try and have a guess as to who you think, which organization you think has come up with. They've got 3 of them for you. So the first one here, we've got Spread Ideas. Which organization do you think might be? This might be the reason for. Just type it in the chat. What do you think it might be? Who do you think it might be? One of my, nice one, Marianne. Pinterest. Actually, do you know what? That would be perfect. It's not Pinterest, but it should be. Absolutely should be. No, it's TED. So the TED Talks. So if you think about, you know, why they're here, why do they exist? Why were they set up in the first place? They were set up to spread ideas to the world. Yeah, unfiltered. No guidance about what those ideas are, or, you know, let's narrow it down to specific ideas. You could literally learn about anything, can't you, with TED? So they're so simple. I love it. Really like it. What about this one? To accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Who do you think that might be? Who do you think that might be? So to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. A tough one. Who might that be? Thank you, Ted. Spot on. It's Tesla. Tesla. And what I love about this one, again, is it's this idea of it's about the transition to sustainable energy. So that could be in any sphere, right? You know, Tesla are obviously a massive car manufacturer, but they're also looking at batteries. They're looking at tiles on roofs that are solar powered, for the house. So there's all sorts of avenues that you could take that to. It doesn't restrict, because the why is broad enough to help with that. And then one final one. To inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, that's the clue in that, and one neighbourhood at a time. Alina, yeah, tea company, nearly. Think coffee instead. Well, they do sell tea, actually. This particular organisation. Costa. It's not Costa. No, close though. Starbucks. Kate, you've got it. Yeah, absolutely right. It's Starbucks. Thank you. So I really love that kind of, to me, that's very inspirational. It's the power of a cup of coffee or tea. For me, it's tea. And you know, how that can inspire and nurture the human spirit is lovely, isn't it? So see how important and how powerful an organizational reason can be if you get it right. Yeah. So organizations don't always get it right. You can Google team mission or organizational mission, and you'll come up with some awful ones. But I think these are lovely.
Yeah, and then we have society, and of course, you know, an organisation doesn't exist in a vacuum, and individuals are part of society as our teams, and we all have an impact on society, and that could be negative or positive, and we need to understand what that is and pay attention to it. There are so many things that different cultures value and pay attention to, and our assumptions from where we are might be different. And so we need to, you know, just consider them. But there's 3 that we thought are part of global consciousness right now. The first one is climate change. And, you know, how are organizations impacting this? Are they behaving responsibly? Is it creating an impact, small or large, either positive or negative? Are they ignoring the problem? Are they exacerbating it? Or are they moving it towards a result that people feel proud about? The second one is connection. You know, humans connect with each other, and how do they connect better and more effectively with each other? There's a lot of talk about hybrid working and the impacts of COVID, and how do we make sure that people still get the connections they need at work as a result of it? Are people being treated well, and how are organisations supporting that connection? And what can teams and individuals do to support each other in connecting? And the third one is inclusion. So what's going on in terms of inclusion for the culture of the organisation? How inclusive are they with their customers, with their employees, and even within the communities in which they work? And what can they do to build on that inclusiveness and make sure that they're, you know, enhancing and enabling people to share their views and be included? These are just a few thoughts. I'm sure there's more out there too, but you know, these are things that individual team members will have in their mind, even subconsciously. And so it will impact on their motivation. It will maybe impact against some of their values as well, and their desire to go that extra mile for the organisation and really lead to the engagement. And so that's why it's important for us to consider these societal things when we start to think about the reason and the purpose, and the why, because this goes deep to people.
Yeah, lovely. So hopefully you've got a sense of how those different layers of reason interact and need to be connected for an individual team member to be truly motivated at work, and the benefits that that can bring. Let's think about that team purpose for a moment, and let's think about how you could go about creating a team purpose. There's a few ideas from us here. And we've documented some of these processes as well. And if you'd like, we've got it documented. You very willing to share that with you. No cost at all, no obligation. Just get in touch with us after the webinar, and we will share that with you absolutely with pleasure. So the first thing to say is that creating a team purpose is not necessarily a straightforward process. It depends a lot on the personalities of the team members involved as to whether they'll find it easy or not, and therefore how much time you might need for this, and what kind of approach you might take. I'll give you an example of teams finding it tough to create a team purpose. We were called in the other week to work with a team who'd already spent 6 hours on trying to create their team purpose, and they got stuck. And they called us in to help, and we very quickly realised that they'd actually been working on the wrong thing. They've been working on their what, not their why, right? So fundamental difference here in terms of those two things. Both really, really important. You need to be clear about your what in order to be high performing. That's the results element of the Dynamics of High Performing Teams framework. But they were trying to create something that was about the why, but looking at what they deliver instead. So of course, no one was getting particularly inspired by it. You know, the what needs to be done, but it's not necessarily what's going to motivate us at the right level. So if you think about the psychology of this in your brain makeup, the prefrontal cortex is what lights up when you think about the what. Yeah, so this is our thinking brain. It's important to fire that up. Yeah. But you also need to light up the limbic system, which is your feeling brain. And that's what gets lit up when we talk about the why. Okay. So how do you do this? So the first thing I'd say is set a couple of frames. So the first frame is that, as we talked about earlier, that this team purpose, this team reason is just for the team. It's just for them. It's not for a marketing tool. It's not for anyone else. And this just calms down that worry about judgment, about what people might say about it. You know, does it kind of, inspire our customers enough? Well, that's not the point. It's about inspiring us, yeah, as a team. So that's the first frame I would always set. The second one is by saying that it needs to be brief, memorable, and inspiring. That BMI acronym that we like to use. So it needs to be brief enough that team members can remember it, and it just rolls off the tongue because it's so memorable, and it needs to be inspiring. So this means that it needs to connect with each person in some way and tick off one or more of their work values. Okay. So how do we go about doing this, the process itself? So there's two ways that I think you can, well, there's probably many more than this, but the two ways that we tend to approach team purpose is either by starting with individual values and getting people to identify them first of all, bring them into their conscious awareness. People often haven't even thought about it before. So it's a lovely exercise just for individuals in the team to go, oh yeah, that's what's really important to me, and that's when I get most motivated, and then they can seek out ways to fulfill that, right? So lovely thing to do anyway on an individual level, but the power of the team process of this is the sharing of those values and getting really clear about what Alison's values are in relation to mine. What are the connections? We share a couple of, similarities in our values. We also have some real differences in our values, and I value those differences because it brings different strengths for both of us into this team, and the same is true for the wider team as well. So we, get people to notice the similarities and the differences, and then go into some group work to brainstorm the team purpose, because what you're doing is you're anchoring that team purpose in the team values. The other way of approaching this is to think about what they want the end point to be, and it needs to be feelings, okay? Because this is firing up the limbic system so that it becomes easier to then create that why. Okay, so thinking about what the team wants to be known for, or how they want their stakeholders or their customers to feel, how they want themselves to feel when they've achieved this purpose. Yeah, so starting there and then brainstorming the team reason from there, different way of approaching it, but still, it creates the same result. And both of these approaches ensure that the team reason is anchored in team members' motivations, that why is being fired off for everybody. The other thing I'd say about team purpose is that it often needs to be an iterative process. So I will often frame things up as, this doesn't need to be perfect. Start with something, get something down, and then sit with it for a few days or weeks or months, and then refine it as you need to. A team purpose can be quite enduring. It could last for years. But every now and again, it might need a refresh. So that one about catalyzing growth for us wasn't it's relatively recent, isn't it, Alison? We actually renewed that in January, didn't we?
Yeah.
So it felt like it needed a refresh for us, because we've shifted considerably since we had our previous team reason. If you look at the two together, they're very similar. There's just an important shift for us that's come through. The key with a team purpose is to keep it alive, keep talking about it, keep coming back to it, and kind of using it as your North Star. So keeping on going, is this still working for us, and is it still keeping us in the right direction? If you don't keep talking about it, it just becomes another tick box exercise, and it doesn't really have the right meaning that it needs to have for everybody to really unlock that potential within the team.
It needs to be dynamic itself, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
So next steps. We'll send you, well, we've already put in the chat, but we'll send you a link to the demo of our diagnostic tool so you can experience it and have some fun with it. If you'd like to have a free coaching session with either Jenny or myself to explore your results, get in touch. We'd love to give you a bit of our time to talk you through the results of your team. And it's free, no obligation. We'd suggest that you get stuck in straight away and start working with your team or with teams around you, or even at an organisation level. The process is the same, to define and create your team reason. And if you'd like, we're willing to share our team reason process worksheet, which just describes all the process steps that's involved in doing so. We'd also suggest that it's good to start at the individual level too, and find out what all the individual values are. And we've got a free values worksheet, which if you'd like that, get in touch with that. Or you can use our beautiful values cards, which is a bit more tactile and fun, and gets people sort of being much more proactive with their, it's a bit more energetic than the worksheet. So we do sell these. So if you're interested, just let us know, and we can sell some to you. But otherwise, the main thing is get stuck in and start getting your North Star. What questions have we got, Peter?
Yeah, thank you both so much. I think there's some really great insights in there. And so thank you for that. Really great going through that with us. So yeah, keep putting your questions. We've got a couple coming in, so we'll kind of work through them. The first one I've got is, What can be done to better align the purpose between the individual, team, organisation and society, given that the world is changing so fast?
Oh, that's a lovely question. Ali, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think it's really, really a critical part. And the sooner we get started talking about purpose, because purpose is bigger than our results. And so it usually, while we talked about it being dynamic, it usually lasts a bit longer than our results do. So we might find that what we do changes on a yearly basis, but the why we're doing it lasts a little bit longer. So Jenny said we just updated ours recently, but actually the previous one had been around for about 4 years. And I would suggest looking at Tesla's and TED's and Starbucks. You know, their views will last at an organizational level for some time. Now, it doesn't mean to say they're there forever. No, they will need to adjust them. But getting that in place and then working with the team to come up with the team one, it will last longer than the team results too. Again, with the dynamic, you do need to review it when you get new team members joining and leaving. But it's usually quite a quick process once you start to get into the way of it. So I think we do need to have conversations about what's the organization, how do we align with that, what's the team purpose. The other thing I would say is, even if you don't have an organizational purpose, you can still create your own team one. And it acts as a lovely anchor and, you know, system for the team to connect to when lots of stuff is turbulent and ambiguous around the team. So it can really help. And talk to the team about what's going on in society and how we can connect that into what the team's doing.
Yeah, lovely. And any more questions, Peter?
Yes, got another from Elena. She's asked, is it worth creating a team purpose for a project team that will be together for 3 to 4 months? So a short-term team.
Short answer is yes. I think any team, no matter how matrix they are, no matter how short term they are, I think the stronger their purpose is, the more aligned that they will be. So it's a worthy exercise, worth investing in, worth investing time in right up front. You know, it creates this massive energy behind, you know, whatever that purpose might be, and the rest becomes so much easier as a result. You know, getting clear on what your results are, you know, working on the relationships, the routines, and the resilience in particular also becomes really, really straightforward. Still needs investment, of course, but, you know, definitely worth doing.
And I think connecting project teams in particular to the wider thing about why we all here as individuals creates an energy and a connectivity to each other that people don't usually experience in project teams. You know, that buy-in of we're in this together and we're all going to support each other to get that, we did it at the end. That's what we're after.
Yeah, lovely.
It doesn't need to take hours as well or days to do this. So, you know, clearly if you're trying to work out TED's one, it probably takes a bit longer for a whole organization. And if you've got, you know, a big team that's going to be around for ages, they, you know, to Jenny's point, it might take, you know, a half day or a day to work through the team reason and results piece, but you're building the relationships at the same time and usually sorting out some of the routines. So, you know, you're generally not just doing it in isolation, but for a project team, you could do it as part of your kickoff. Why are we here? Let's get that clear.
Okay. We've probably got time for one more. So Bob's asked in the chat, has your research found any data that links the benefits of having a BMI team purpose to commercial results or success? So it's a data question.
Nice question. Not yet. We're still we're still doing research, aren't we, Ali, in terms of what the links are and what the data is showing us. What we do notice is that when people run the diagnostic, the team will run a diagnostic for the first time. Often the pattern is that the reason is often the strongest dynamic to start with. You know, and that's a good sign. You know, in teams where it's not the strongest one, then usually that means it needs a lot of work, or there's something fundamentally wrong, often in the structure of the team or the setup of the team, and then resilience is often the lowest as well, often the lowest scoring item, and the others are generally kind of, you know, relatively mediocre. So Having said that, we would often still work on purpose relatively early with a team, because it makes such a difference to all the other dynamics. Yeah. So once you're clear on your why in a team, you can be even clearer about your results, the relationships. You can start to get to know each other better, especially if you start to work on things like values. Your routines become easier to manage, and resilience starts to increase naturally, because you've got that motivation coming. And isn't it amazing how much more resilient we are when we're motivated? Ali, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's lots of other people's research which talks about purpose to commercial results and success. I don't think they've measured it specifically about BMI, but what I would say is we do know from good research on effective communications that keeping things short and memorable is more likely to be enduring than longer term stuff. We are working with some organizations in terms of the research to look at how having those dynamics and working with the dynamics of high performing teams leads to an increase in commercial success and results. So we'll be producing that later this year. But what we have seen is the impact on teams is enormous, of just some small moments of working on these different aspects, but starting with why.
Lovely. So let's bring it to an end. Thank you very much for joining us on our webinar today on Why the Why. There will be future webinars. We do these pretty much every 6 weeks or so. So look out for an invitation to our next one as well, and we will see you soon.
See you soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.